Ah, the 90s. The time of Tamagotchis, dial-up internet, and TV shows that were so weird you have to wonder, was everyone just drinking expired Capri Suns? From musical cops to corporate villains and suits sharper than their morals, the 90s gave us some of the strangest, most short-lived shows ever. If you're a true 90s kid, get ready for a nostalgia trip because we're going to dive into 10 weird TV shows from the 90s that only 90s kids will remember. Let's see how many of these you actually watched, or blocked from memory. Number 10, The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., a cowboy bounty hunter with sci-fi gadgets, only in the 90s. Bruce Campbell, aka the king of cult classics, played Briscoe, a Harvard-educated bounty hunter chasing down outlaws and mysterious golden orbs that had strange futuristic powers because, when you're out in the Wild West, time-traveling artifacts are the first thing that comes to mind. The show was a bizarre mix of Western, action, comedy, and steampunk, but before steampunk really was a thing. Imagine if Indiana Jones, Back to the Future, and a Clint Eastwood movie had a love child and then gave it a horse and a laser gun. Yeah, that's Briscoe County Jr. It had all the ingredients for success. It had quirky humor, thrilling adventure, and Bruce Campbell's perfectly chiseled smirk, but it suffered from bad timing. Fox aired all 27 episodes, which, let's be real, is a miracle compared to today's 8-season episodes, but it was overshadowed by The X-Files, which debuted right after and stole all the spotlight. And just like that, Briscoe rode off into the sunset of TV obscurity. But hey, at least it lives on in the hearts of 90s kids who were lucky enough to witness its weird brilliance. Number 9, VR 5. Before the metaverse was cool, or even existed outside of sci-fi novels, we had VR 5, a show that took the idea of virtual reality and cranked it up to full-on mind invasion. The premise? A young woman named Sydney Bloom, played by Laurie Singer, discovers that her VR setup doesn't just let her explore cool digital worlds, but it actually allows her to hack into people's subconscious minds. Now, imagine scrolling through someone's brain like an internet browser. Yikes. Now, naturally, the government, or some vague, menacing secret organization, gets wind of this and recruits her for some ethically questionable mind-bending missions. Fox, in peak 90s fashion, did what Fox does best: air the show inconsistently and then just pretend it never happened. They ran 10 episodes in 1995 before ghosting the last 3 like a bad Tinder date, eventually dumping them onto the Sci-Fi Channel in 97. It was the classic TV breakup of, it's not you, it's the ratings. But let's be honest, this show was trippy, it was ahead of its time, and the kind of weird that really deserved better. Number 8, Maximum Bob. Imagine Twin Peaks, one of my favorite shows, but what if it took a wrong turn into a Florida swamp? That's Maximum Bob. A grumpy judge? Check. A psychic mermaid wife? Why not? And an inbred crime family? Absolutely. Judge Bob Gibbs, played by Beau Bridges, loved handing out the harshest sentences possible. If he could throw people in jail for bad vibes alone, he probably would. But the real weirdness? His wife had visions and almost became an alligator's lunch, and the town was crawling with characters straight out of a fever dream. ABC took one look at this bizarre mix of courtroom drama and gator attacks and said, yeah, no. It lasted 7 episodes before getting the boot. Surprised it lasted 7. Number 7 is Nowhere Man. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that your entire life has been erased. Your wife doesn't recognize you, your friends have never heard of you, and all your personal records, gone. That's the nightmare that photographer Thomas Vale finds himself in after capturing a classified military execution on film. One photo, one secret, and suddenly, he's a ghost. With nothing but a single roll of film as proof that he ever existed, Thomas is thrown to a life-or-death game of cat and mouse, trying to outrun a shadowy organization that wants to erase him permanently. The show was a psychological thriller with a heavy dose of paranoia. Think The Fugitive meets The Twilight Zones. Critics loved it, but viewers, not so much. The show was dubbed this season's coolest hit, which in TV language basically means enjoy it while it lasts. And sure enough, it lasted exactly 1 season before UPN pulled the plug. But Canada, being Canada, gave it another shot, airing reruns and keeping the memory alive a little longer. Too smart for its own good? Maybe, but for those who watched, Nowhere Man was one of the best mind-bending thrillers of the decade. Number 6, The Single Guy. Jonathan Elliott, a struggling writer, a hopeless bachelor, and permanent third wheel. His life was basically a rom-com where the romance just forgot to show up. With his happily married best friends and a scene-stealing doorman, Jonathan tried to navigate New York's brutal dating scene. Spoiler, it didn't go well. NBC handed it a golden ticket, a time-slot sandwich between 2 juggernauts, Friends and Seinfeld. But let's be honest, next to those 2 shows, that show was a sitcom equivalent of a side salad. It was fine, but no one really was craving it. Ironically, the single guy pulled in solid ratings, yet NBC still axed it, making it one of the highest-rated shows to ever be dumped. That's like getting straight A's and still being told to repeat the grade. Brutal. Number 5, Bakersfield PD. Before Giancarlo Esposito was scaring the life out of us in Breaking Bad and serving up the most menacing fast food chicken in TV history, he played Paul Gigante, a former FBI agent forced to swap high-stakes crime busts for small-town absurdity in Bakersfield PD. The show was a fish-out-of-water comedy with a sharp satirical edge. Gigante, a no-nonsense, hyper-competent cop, found himself stuck in a police department full of oddballs and incompetence. The humor was dry, the writing was sharp, and Esposito's deadpan delivery was comedy gold. So, of course, Fox took one look at it all and said, yeah, you know what, it's brilliant, but let's cancel it. Bakersfield PD lasted just one season before disappearing into the TV void. Years later, it was resurrected under Trio's Brilliant But Canceled category, which is basically TV's Hall of Fame for shows that deserve better. A small consolation, but hey, at least someone finally appreciated it. Number 4, Action. Hollywood is ruthless, but this show was even worse. Action was a savage, no-holds-barred satire that ripped the movie industry to shreds. So naturally, Hollywood, they weren't thrilled about it. The show followed Peter Dragon, a sleazy, foul-mouthed film executive desperately trying to revive his sinking career. His right-hand woman, a former child star turned hooker. Because why hire a PR team when you can get life advice from someone who went from the Disney Channel to escorting? It was too edgy, too savage, and about 20 years ahead of its time. Fox yanked it after 8 episodes, probably because it hit a little too close to home. The remaining episodes were dumped onto FX and Comedy Central, where it found a cult following. Hollywood might have hated it, but for those who have ever worked a terrible job under an even worse boss, this show was pure gold. Number 3, Prophet. Meet Jim Prophet, a man so ruthless, even Succession's Logan Roy would take notes. Need a promotion? Blackmail. Office politics? Extortion. Annoying coworker? Murder. And his secret weapon? Sleeping in a cardboard box at work like some kind of corporate vampire. Played to chilling perfection by Adrian Pasdar, Prophet was ahead of its time. A cutthroat look at corporate greed, decades before toxic workplace culture became a buzzword. The show pulled zero punches, portraying the business world as cutthroat, backstabbing, and an eat-or-be-eaten battlefield. Critics ate it up. It still holds a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, but viewers didn't really love it so much. Some called Jim Satan in a suit, which was not meant to be a compliment at the time. Even worse, actual corporate execs took one look at their TV screens and said, "Wait, we're the bad guys?" Fox got nervous and yanked the show after just 4 episodes. Too dark, too twisted, just too real. But over the years, Prophet gained a cult following because, let's be honest, it was TV gold. Number 2, Cop Rock. Imagine Law & Order, but instead of slamming the gavel, they drop a beat. Yeah, that was Cop Rock, a serious police drama where officers didn't just read criminals their rights, they sang them. Picture this, a drug bust mid-chorus, a courtroom verdict set to jazz hands. Yeah, I know. Now, the concept was so bizarre, even Broadway would have said, maybe not. ABC, bless their hearts, ran it for a whole 11 episodes, which honestly was 10 more than anyone expected. It remains one of TV's more legendary misfires, proving once and for all that not everything needs to be a musical number. And number 1 is Dead at 21. Happy birthday, Ed. Here's cakes, balloons, and oh yeah, a microchip in your brain that'll kill you in a year. That's the bonkers premise of Dead at 21, an MTV sci-fi thriller where Ed discovers that his entire life has been one giant science experiment, and he's the unlucky lab rat. Turns out a secret governmental program implanted microchips in kids' brains to make them super intelligent, but forgot to mention the tiny detail that these chips self-destruct on your 21st birthday. Whoops. Now, Ed's got 365 days to find a way to survive, all while dodging shadowy government agents and clearing his name for a murder he didn't commit. Basically, it's like The Fugitive, The X-Files, and MacGyver had a chaotic love child. Yeah. Now, MTV, always down for a weird experiment, like Beavis and Butthead, gave it 13 episodes before pulling the plug. Unfortunately, the show never really found an audience, maybe because people tuning into MTV in the 90s were expecting music videos, not a high-stakes sci-fi thriller. In the end, Dead at 21 got the axe, much like Ed's countdown clock. Did we just unlock some long-lost TV memories for you, or maybe introduce you to a show that you never knew existed? Either way, we want to hear from you. Drop a comment and let's talk about the weirdest, wildest 90s TV had to offer. And if you love diving into nostalgia, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss another trip back in time. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.